This is about how Airbnb gamed Craigslist during their early days. This is a really good write-up. It is from my friend Startup Spells. He wrote it for his newsletter, then he posted it to Reddit on the Entrepreneur subreddit, and it did really well on the Entrepreneur subreddit, and he shared it with me. And I said, hey, this is really well written. I'm going to share it on the podcast because it's some really solid guerrilla marketing. So before I read it, I want to quickly give my take on this. And if you want to see, by the way, Startup Spells, he wrote it for his newsletter. And if you want to see that newsletter, you can just go to startupspells.com. I want to quickly give my take on this before I read it. The writing says that this is super black hat. I actually would consider this personally, almost white hat, maybe gray hat. White hat with a touch of gray is how I would consider it, because if you're a frequent listener of the show, you know that I have talked about far more black hat things. No, instead, I don't really consider this black hat. I consider this brilliant guerrilla marketing hustling. And my friend says it in this article, and he says it well. Driving qualified traffic to a two-sided marketplace is difficult. And the finesse that Airbnb used to do this is brilliant. It was really very smart how they pulled it off. So, okay, I'm gonna share this now. And if you are hustling, doing some guerrilla marketing yourself, some creative marketing yourself, hopefully this will inspire you the same way that it inspired me. The title of this is The Secret Behind Airbnb's Billion-Dollar Empire, Spamming Craigslist. Here we go. Silicon Valley wants you to believe that their unicorn startup succeeded doing things legally, but that couldn't be further from the truth. For starters, Airbnb used multiple Gmail accounts to spam Craigslist. Side note, I actually tweeted recently. This happened to me a few days ago at the gym. I got logged out of my app. I couldn't get back in. I had to return to my gym to ask what was wrong. We went through this whole ordeal. They were asking for my email. I kept giving it to them. After this, for like 15 minutes, it turned out that I was giving them the wrong email. And then I tweeted out after. I said, I have maybe 20 or 30 different email addresses, and it's getting to be far too many. I think anyone who really does marketing seriously, you have like tons of different email addresses on many different providers, and it can definitely be a bit crazy. Okay, so for starters, Airbnb used multiple Gmail accounts to spam Craigslist. They posted unrealistically fake cheap rentals of beautiful apartments in places where normal rent should be 10 times more. Once people replied, they auto-responded that the unit had been rented, but they should be looking for another unit on Airbnb. They were doing a bait and switch. Crazy. This is Airbnb at the beginning of the Airbnb days. They were doing a bait and switch. The game of black hat is a cat and mouse game. You need a lot of guardrails to protect yourself from people using your social site by spamming their products. Craigslist is a team of 30 people. There's stuff AI can automate now with such a small team, but back then it wasn't possible. Airbnb used Craigslist as its playground to spam Craigslist visitors to grow their supply side. In a two-sided marketplace, growing both supply and demand is very important, and both must grow at the same time for the marketplace to work. A black hat marketer created a new test site to get vacation rental owners to sign up so that he can test his Airbnb theory. He grabbed their real email addresses, not Craigslist anonymous addresses, via Craigslist by specifically targeting those who are advertising their vacation rentals on Craigslist. He skipped over other categories that were directly related to Airbnb's business model because they didn't fit with the test site he built. Once he got 1,000 plus signups, he then took it upon himself to post it to the advertising section of Craigslist. The email said this: I am emailing you because you have one of the nicest listings on Craigslist in Idaho, and I want to recommend you feature it for free on one of the largest Idaho housing sites on the web, Airbnb. The site already has 3 million page views a month. Check it out here to list now, airbnb.com. From Sarah. Surprisingly, all emails were by ladies. He did the same thing in week 2 and week 3 to test if it wasn't a one-time thing. Surely it wasn't a fluke. After posting 4 ads on Craigslist in 3 weeks, he received 5 identical emails from 2 ladies who were raving fans of Airbnb and spent their days emailing Craigslist advertisers. So funny. By the way, and it probably won't come as a surprise, in a bunch of different scenarios, women receive higher response rates than men. The article is almost done now. This is one of the greatest black hat strategies used in the real world to build a billion-dollar marketplace by growing the supply side with pure black hat. These strategies are not mentioned in press interviews, media, or any founder stories, but this is probably the most important piece of the puzzle. Without it, Airbnb would not have survived. Now, here's a quote. Some very famous investors have alluded to the fact that they look for a dangerous streak in entrepreneurs they invest in. And while those investors will never come out and tell you what they mean, this kind of thing is probably what they mean. Yeah, you got to be creative. You got to do some smart, creative marketing like this. The article continues, it definitely violates CAN Spam Act. Some comments from Hacker News. CAN Spam sending from a fake address illegal headers. California has a specific law that preempts CAN Spam that definitely makes this illegal if sent from California. But I guess it worked in Airbnb's favor, lol, as they were never caught or fined until after. Another quote, it's commercial email 100%. Probably a fake sender name, which is illegal against Gmail terms of service, against Craigslist terms of service, and no unsubscribe link, and no one even subscribed in the first place, 100% against CAN Spam. And that is the article. This is again from startupspells.com, which was posted to Reddit. There was a really interesting comment in this Reddit thread. My friend sent it to me, and this was what got me so interested in the post, because I think this is so brilliant. So this is now from 2016. This is a short story from 2016. But the guy posts in the Reddit thread, and this person says, I'm going to delete this tomorrow, but here's a fun one. I had a really interesting spin on a service. We had a great documentary/testimonial video. I'm being vague here, but it was a life-changing thing for this person and no followers. So no followers, great documentary testimonial video. I used a cheap tool to scrape all of the biggest internet publishers' websites. 2016 Facebook at its peak. So think Business Insider, New York Times, Rolling Stone, ABC New York, CNN, BuzzFeed, Telemundo, and a few niche industry sites, but mostly the big ones. Anyway, I scraped as many domain emails as I possibly could, and I ended up with tens of thousands. I loaded that tool into a Facebook custom audience and ran ads directly to them with my videos. Simultaneously, I had someone do outreach to all of them manually as a tip for a story they had seen. That's so brilliant because journalists want to be tipped off to interesting stories. That's how they make their living. They cover interesting stories, especially ones in their niche. And you can pitch to any of these publishers as well. You can pitch your story to any of these publishers as well. And so this person, while he was using Facebook ads for this video, for this documentary/testimonial video to this audience, he was also anonymously pitching them with like a tip, coming as an anonymous source with a tip for a cool story that the anonymous source had seen. And so this post finishes and the person says, anyway, we ended up getting around 50 million views from them all republishing, or in several cases coming out to produce themselves video. We booked our calendar for 8 months and got an insane following. It definitely slowed down again, but to a much higher new normal. We had the badges to show on our website, so they had all these logos to show on their website. We had a shit ton of engaged users to remarket to. So now they can run ads to all the users who visited. And the person finishes, this person says, check out the book, Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday. It's one that you should actually read instead of just getting cliff notes for. And it's true, that book changed my life. I read that book in, I think, 2015 or 2016. It changed my life in the way that I did marketing. It is one of the best marketing books ever. I hope to make marketing products as good as that inspires many people as that book has inspired. That book, by the way, turned Ryan Holiday into like a household name in marketing. And afterwards, I met people who paid him for consulting. He was charging $10,000 an hour for consulting. These people were paying him for it. I told that story on a different podcast. All right. That's this episode. I wanted to share this story about Airbnb and this post that I just read to you. I think it's so cool. Thanks again to my friend Startup Spells. And thank you so much. This is episode 338 of The Edward Show. I do this thing every day. This is my daily digital marketing podcast. I do this thing daily, sharing some of the juiciest stories that I can find or just real actionable advice, especially on SEO. I talk about SEO a lot on this show. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.